Welcome back to the Wholesome Dog Life. Today I'm going to be talking about adoption. This is following up on the series that I've been talking about adopting versus shopping when it comes to getting a puppy. If you haven't already seen my videos, I've already posted my video on adopt versus shop. The link is over here. And I've also posted my video all about breeder, and the link is over here. So if you haven't checked out those videos, I suggest you do that as well. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. Then you'll get all the notifications for these videos as they come up. So adopting is something that a lot of people are really passionate about. I, for one, am. I love Sam. You all know that I've adopted Sam, and at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you all about his story. But I'm going to leave that to the end because it's a bit different to the general way that normal people adopt. I know that people are very passionate about adoption, but I'm going to try to take the passion out of it for a second, just so that we can talk about the best practices when it comes to adopting, so that you find the best dog for you and that you also are the best owner for a potential dog. It's important when getting a dog from a shelter or from a rescue that you are still looking as if you are choosing a dog. A lot of people go into shelters with a very emotional response, and they will get the first dog they see or the dog that looks the saddest or the weakest. That's not wrong necessarily, but it often leads to heartache. You might not be the best possible match for that dog. You may not be able to tend to all their physical or emotional needs, and that might lead to problems in the home. That dog might still find an owner, but you might not have been the best owner for it. For example, if it was a badly abused dog that somehow got aggression from their situation, but you don't have experience with that situation, but you felt bad for it, now you've taken it into your home and you're suffering with that problem. Either you two are going to have an issue between you and the dog and struggle, and it's going to make an impact on your life. You may be going to have to go through behavioralists and all sorts of things, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on your life, maybe on your family, and you may even have to do things like rehoming. Or if you were to leave that dog in the shelter and maybe someone else who's better suited for that dog could go and find that dog, maybe someone who's already owns a dog of that breed, owned a dog with that sort of issue, and they can help that dog. So it's very important not to adopt out of that impulse and out of that guilt. And it's a very hard thing to do, because immediately when you see a dog in that situation, you just want to help it, and it's a very natural thing to do, and it's a lovely thing that dog lovers do. But I think it's important to remember that there are other people out there that might be better suited for that dog than you are. There are some really great people at shelters that can help match dogs to owners. However, shelters are often very busy and very overrun, and some of them are really happy to just let dogs go to any home because they just need to get them out of the shelter atmosphere. So it's up to you to really sit down and think about it, if that dog is going to really get everything that they need from your family, and if you can cope with that dog. So let's go back. If you've decided that you want to adopt, that's a really great thing. So you need to start back at the beginning. What are your needs as a person or as a family or as a group living in your home? If you have other dogs, if you have other pets, if you have a cat, if you have children, that's a really good place to start thinking about what your needs are. What sort of property you have. Do you have a garden? What sort of work do you do? Do you work from home? Do you have time to exercise? Think about all those things. There are loads of websites where you can do online quizzes as to what breeds are good for you. You don't have to get a specific breed, but most dogs in shelters look like certain breeds. You will get terrier type dogs, you will get collie type dogs, you'll get shepherd type dogs, and they will have certain tendencies like those breeds. So get an idea of what sort of dog do you want. Do you want a big dog? Do you want an energetic dog? Do you want a small dog that can sit and watch TV with you? What do you need from a dog, and what can you give to a dog? Once you've thought about that and chatted it over with your family, because often families will have different thoughts and different needs about what they want in a dog, then you can go to the shelter chat to the shelter as well. Even go to a few shelters and go through and look at the dogs. Don't decide on getting the first dog that you see. Walk through, and if there's one that you really fall in love with, spend some time with it. You know, if you were getting a dog from a breeder, you usually go and visit the litter a couple of times before you even choose your pup specifically. So it shouldn't be an immediate decision. Spend time with that dog. See what it's like around your kids. See what it's like if you touch it. See what it's like, you know, if you just don't give it attention. Is it like really needy? Whatever. A lot of shelters are doing things like cat tests, because shelters often have cats and dogs, where they will bring the dogs near the cat enclosure to see what they do. That's really helpful if you have a cat in your home. Make sure that you've done all these things, because you don't want to bring the dog into your home that's really not going to understand your situation. That's not to say you can't socialize it into your situation, but it's much, much easier to start off at a point where they're already better suited for you. Don't feel bad if you have to leave the shelter empty-handed. You won't get a dog on the day of going to the shelter. They should be doing a background check on you. Most shelters will even do a home check, make sure that you have the amount of space that you said you have, and make sure that it's the right dog for you. So don't feel bad if you go home and you haven't made a decision yet. You can always go back to that same shelter the next week and look at the same dog. Maybe that dog's found a home already, and that's excellent. That means that that dog was already destined for someone else. And maybe they've gotten new dogs that are maybe better suited for you. So don't feel like you're pressurized to choose a dog on the first trip you ever go to a shelter, and don't feel like you can only look at one shelter. Go to a couple of them, phone around. I did mention in my previous video, there are breed-specific rescues. So if you do want a breed or a breed mix, so say for example you love border collies, but you don't want to go through a breeder, you want to rescue, there's a good border collie rescue, and they'll either have pups from border collie mix litters, so you can even get a little puppy that will be like half border collie, or it will be adult dogs. So you can really look around, and there's also a really good Great Dane rescue, there's a Shepherd rescue. They're all over. If you look them up online, there's loads on Facebook, and they work with these shelters as well. So they'll hear about a dog at a shelter that is a specific breed, and they'll help match them to families that are looking for a specific breed of dog, but who want to rescue. So it's a really good idea to get in touch with those people as well. There's no problem in contacting more than one rescue or more than one shelter at the same time to help you find the correct dog. Now the important part is actually about taking the dog home. When you get a rescue dog, they are no different from any other dog. Yes, they are gorgeous. Yes, they are special. Some may have disabilities. So as you know, Sam has a disability, and it's been a challenge throughout his life. But he's a dog, and he's required training, and he's been through the same training as any other dog, and he gets the same sort of discipline as any other dog. He still needs to, sit for his food and listen and whatever. We can't treat dogs differently because they've been through hardships, because then we just have very badly behaved rescue dogs. That's often what happens. People think that rescue dogs are badly behaved because they've been through trauma, but quite often they're badly behaved because they're kind of coddled when they arrive, which is very natural because they've been through a lot and we naturally don't want to upset them. But just as with children, dogs thrive with boundaries. So we need to give them those boundaries, give them those set of rules that make them feel secure. They've come from an environment, whether it's the street or a shelter or an unsafe home, where they have had no boundaries, they've had no security, they've had no safety. So we need to give them the complete opposite. We need to give them structure, we need to give them boundaries. They need to do certain things to get certain things. They can't just jump on whatever they want to. They can't just snatch food. They can't bark at whatever they want to. We need to give them rules to teach them how to live in our home so that they can share it with us. And this will make them wonderful dogs. So treat your rescue like any other dog and they will thrive. It's fantastic. The other point is just be aware of what you are getting, especially in terms of special needs. So ask the shelter plenty of questions before you get your dog. That's not to say don't get it because of those things, but also don't feel like you have to get it if you can't cope. So if you chat to the shelter and they tell you it's come from a certain situation and this dog snaps or whatever, it nips at hands, and you feel like that's not good for you because you live with your elderly grandmother and you don't want it to nip her hands, say so and say no. It's absolutely fine. Your family comes first and your safety comes first. But always take what they say into consideration. So with Sam, I knew I was getting into a situation that he was going to be disabled, and I took that home with me and I did my research. So if you get a dog and they've told you, okay, he's been in a situation where he's been abused, so he's not very sure of men, don't take them home and just close them in your house and say shame. Research, do training, take them to dog school, really, really socialize them and help them through that trauma and work with them. And the same goes for any physical ailments. Make sure you know, if they have epilepsy or any illnesses or whatever, research it before you get the dog and then learn about it and help your dog through that when you get them home. The last thing I want to say before I tell Sam's story is be prepared to tell your dog's story. Often, if you have a rescue dog, you'll be asked a lot what your dog is and where you got them. So enjoy that. Enjoy telling people about how amazing your dog is and tell your story. And make sure to educate others. So you can always help others into adopting in a responsible way. So help others to make the correct choices when adopting a dog, not getting something that's not suitable for them, and help them also through the adoption process and socializing their new dog. So now for Sam's story. So Sam, I want to say for Sam, I did everything wrong when it came to adopting him. The number one incorrect thing that I did when adopting Sam was I adopted him when I wasn't planning on getting a dog. So I was in Thailand, actually on holiday, but I ended up working at a shelter there, and while I was there, there was a very small, very underweight, was a four-legged dog, but his one leg was really, really damaged from what they could see was maybe a car accident. He had absolutely no hair. I'll pop a photo up there as well. Got very few photos of him because he didn't stop moving. But he was the sweetest dog, and there was something about him. I mean, the shelter that I was at was a lovely shelter, and there were really, really nice dogs there. But for some reason, this dog was something different for me. And so, I was working at the shelter, so I went back every day. And it took me a while, but there was something about him that I couldn't leave behind. So I did decide to adopt Sam. I was well aware that there was no way that they could keep the leg and that it was going to be removed. I had to return back to South Africa, so I had to say goodbye to him, and that's when all the hard work started, because I had 3 months of paperwork in front of me between the South African Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries and the Thai department. And the biggest problem between that is the Thai department is all in Thai and South African department is in English. And I had to go between the two, getting someone to translate the Thai papers for me and then having to fill them out and then sit in the back and the back and forth. And it was quite a nightmare, but it was really worth it. That was in June that I met Sam. In September I finally got him, and he flew from Thailand through Doha, and he arrived, and it was like we'd never been apart, which was crazy. He was so excited to see me. He was in quarantine for 6 days, which really wasn't bad. I was in contact with the guy from quarantine the whole time. really lovely guy named Leonard. So if you ever see anyone called Leonard from quarantine, he's lovely. And he would phone me every day, and I was able to hear Sam in the background and know that he was all right. And then the most magical moment for me, definitely in the whole process, was the day that I brought him home. I got him in the car, which was quite a mission because I don't think he'd ever traveled in a car properly before, besides in a crate. So I got him in the car, got him all the way home from the airport, and I got him onto the grass at my mom's house, and he just rolled on the grass, and I realized he'd never seen grass before. Because he lived on the street in Thailand, and then he lived in the shelter, which was all sand and concrete. So it was just incredible, that very, very simple thing of grass, how absolutely fascinating it was to him and how happy he was. I don't even think he stopped wagging his tail since. Yeah, he's been a happy joy. He is a very, very special dog when it comes to sensitivity. He will kind of get very in tune with you, and he's quite serious. Yeah, I've loved every minute of it, of having him. There are some downsides to having him though. I love him to bits, but I haven't been able to train with him as well as I would love to, just because of his disability in recent years. He trained very well when he was young, but recently he's only 7 or 8, and he has quite bad hip dysplasia now, and that means he only really has one good leg. So he can't walk very far, it's about 10 steps before he really struggles. So I can't do any distance kind of training with him, and anything that sort of stretches him, he just gives up, which is fine, but it just means that I am kind of stuck working with him as an older dog at such a young age, and I know that mentally he's not an older dog, and he does enjoy doing tricks, so I need to challenge him but without moving him, it's been an interesting challenge for both of us to work with, and I can see he wants to do more. We've not been able to do walks probably for the last 3 months, just because he gets in too much pain. He does have a pram, which we take him out on outings just so that he can go and see the scenery, which he loves. I'll also attach a little video of him doing that because it's really cute. Yeah, so I will say both, I would not change a thing about him because he's just a gorgeous dog, and also I really wish that he was not disabled, just so that I had more time with him, because I know that I have limited time with him just because of his pain. So I also just want to urge you all, if you are looking into a dog that has some sort of ailment or disability, just be aware that that does mean you have limited time with them or less time with them. And also, if you get a dog with something like 3 legs or whatever, invest in them now. So I didn't even know about physio when I got Sam, and we started it way too late. So if you get a young dog that's got a disability of sorts, start them early before they're even in pain with the physio or aquatherapy, anything that can help them build up their strength before they get old, before they get any of the other symptoms, so that they can be really, really nice and strong. To help them live a longer life, because as I say, they're really fantastic animals and they deserve love and a life as much as any other animal, but just give them the best chance that they have. I didn't do that for Sam because I didn't know. I didn't even know those things existed at the time, but now I do, and now that I would definitely change a lot of things that I did when I got Sam if I had known about them. I hope you enjoyed my video. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I really hope that you find your pup. Good luck with your adopting.